Ahoy there, and welcome back to Long Live Hooky Street, the podcast where we rewatch and discuss every episode of Britain's most beloved TV comedy, Only Fools and Horses. I'm Jenny, and I'm joined from Hong Kong by my co-host and sister Heather. Say hello, dude.
Ahoy!
Today we are discussing part 2 of the 1985 feature-length Christmas special, To Hull and Back. So, keep your eyes peeled for tulips, listen out for the sound of clocks, and let's get started. La, 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 la. Okay, so we're going to cut straight to Albert climbing off the train. We see here that he is carrying some of his stuff, and the shot cuts back to Rodney's face in shock. But I want to know, who was he expecting?
Yeah, that's so true. Dear God, yeah. Who was expecting Mickey Pierce?
That is England's greatest little sailor since Nelson lost the Armada.
Ahoy there!
Yeah. Ship ahoy!
Del, every single ship or vessel that man has ever sailed on has sunk.
I know. Luck's got to change sometime, isn't it, Rodney?
Yeah, I love that line. That's so funny. And yeah, it's interesting, Rodney pointing out that Albert is a jinx again here. Again, a running theme all the way through.
Yeah, it goes back to that him saying he's a Jonah, right? From the Series 4 episodes that we've done already. So yeah, things do not start out on the best foot here because Albert has not bought any of Rodney and Del's stuff. But luckily he has bought their passports with him, and a few of his old jumpers.
Yeah, I could just wear Albert's jumpers.
Yeah, I was going to say they could, couldn't they? Rodney is already fuming with him, and that does continue for the rest of the episode. Rodney's kind of mad at Albert. I feel like the Albert and Rodney bickering is a huge part of the dialogue as we head off onto the high seas. Basically, just very intolerant of Albert in this episode. Mm-hmm. But we see that Albert is actually pretty excited and he's using a bit of boat speak already.
All ship shape and Bristol fashion.
And then we get a bit of timeline from Del that he says they sail in half an hour. So that was cutting it a bit tight, wasn't it? And then it cuts straight into the boat on the water.
It's great to see Albert introduced into the episode at this point as a main part of the episode. Yeah, it's a really good way that they got him in there. I think it makes a lot of sense for the character that they would call on him because he's the only person they know who knows anything about boats at all. And of course, they assume that he knows a lot more than he actually does know.
Yeah, and they wouldn't have been able to do this episode with Grandad again. Like, it's sad to say that, but like, I wonder if John Sullivan got the idea because he knew he had like an old sailor. He thought, I can use this.
Yeah, maybe.
Grandad couldn't have arrived, could he, and sailed the boat?
And they wouldn't have assumed that Grandad could sail the boat, whereas with Albert, it makes sense that they think that he might be able to.
Yeah, definitely an episode that was written with Buster Merrifield's character in mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're right. Now, Albert, slow down. You're going too fast. Right a bit.
Eh? To your right. You mean starboard?
I mean right. Don't start all that Captain Birdseye bloody cobblers. I said right.
Yeah, the whole sequence here, the dialogue is just so funny, and the boat weaving back and forth, and the implication that it's implied that they hit this little boat and like sunk this little guy on the sea, which is just really funny.
I think it's really funny that he calls him Captain Birdseye here because it was a known thing that Buster Merrifield looked like Captain Birdseye, and it was one of the reasons he was cast because the beard is like a very important part of the recognizable side of Albert.
And also he's got the blue hat as well, which is very Captain Birdseye.
So the boat is swaying all over the harbour. And I have to say that the parts of the episode where they're sailing to Holland are probably my favourite parts of the episode. Yeah. So all these next scenes. Just at the end of the scene, Del says,
"What are you doing up? We got some bite to dance or what?"
I didn't know what that was. So it's like, I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce this correctly, but the official name of it is Sydenham's chorea, which is a neurological disorder characterised by involuntary jerky movements, particularly of the face, hands and feet.
Oh, okay.
So,
I thought it was something to do with being itchy.
No, so basically because he's moving all over the place. So it cuts to a rapid cut to the last of Denzel's paranoia scenes here, just as the boat is sailing away.
And the best one, in my opinion.
So the scene was filmed just outside of Hull. The crew travelled to Spurn Point, which is apparently Yorkshire's Land's End, to film this scene. So Denzel sees the boat sailing along and Del standing on the front. And this is where he says,
"Gordon Bennett! I'm sick! I'm sick!"
I feel sick, Del.
I've got to say, I have a question. Is Del holding onto the rope, or is he looking out, like with his hand above his forehead, like a lookout? Because I've always been confused, because when I was a kid, I always thought he was standing, like, looking out under his hand. like, you know, people do when they say look out, and they sort of look into the distance and they sort of like a salute almost on your forehead. Or is he holding onto a rope and leaning? Because his arm is up, I think, when Denzel sees him.
I don't know without double checking, but I would think he's holding a rope because it would be very hard to balance.
Yeah. Because for the longest time, I thought he was doing the lookout thing and sort of looking out to sea. When I was a kid, I always thought that.
The fact that he's standing on the front of the boat is actually quite funny because, yeah, it would be very weird place for Denzel to see Del. So it really does like hammer home that he's hallucinating, right?
Yeah, agreed. That's why it's, hilarious. Really
funny.
well written. The chance encounters are really well written in this episode.
Yeah, but that's the last we actually see of Denzel until we see Slater's note later that he's had a mental breakdown or something. So, back on the boat. So Rodney is sick, and we get the beginning of their journey aboard the boat.
I just want to say Rodney's not seasick in Miami twice when they go for a nice little boat ride. Do us the world of good.
Yes, but that's a very different type of boat because that's a smooth, like, ferry boat. This is a up and down. It's different.
That's true, but who knows what the sea is like in Miami. Maybe there was more waves.
I mean, that's just in the Biscayne Bay Harbor, so there's no waves. Yeah,
oh, right,
I do think it is different, but...
Oh, man.
But Rodney did not get seasick when they sailed on the Thames in Ashes to Ashes.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Now, that was very sort of up and down.
That was rough, yeah.
And he didn't mention that he got seasick on the ferry with Grandad, but Grandad did.
Yes. I mean, he actually isn't one of the people that got sick, as we learned. So a little note here from Ray Butt. He said out of 18 crew members, only 4 were operational. But he was very glad that all the actors were okay. And Nick Lyndhurst said in an interview that Buster Merrifield did suffer quite a bit, but Ray Butt said that none of the actors did. So I'm not quite sure who suffered and who didn't.
Well, it didn't look like he was suffering. I mean, it's usually very difficult to hide through acting if you look sick.
Yeah.
Even if you don't sort of like act sick. You know what I mean? So I think that was hidden very well.
Maybe he just means overall he suffered because they were on the boat a long time, so maybe he got a little bit sick at some point. But yeah, it doesn't come across in the acting, although Nick Lyndhurst does look actually like he's sick, even though he's not.
Yes, he does.
But Ray Butt still said he loved every minute of filming it. It was great fun. So this scene is pretty famous. While Rodney is feeling queasy, we see Del have a British pride moment come to the surface, and some patriotic music starts building in the background.
It's an old tingle running down the spine, this, isn't it? Well, it's in the blood, of course. This island race. This septic isle. Yeah. Us Brits, we got salt water flowing through our veins.
Oh, will you shut up about blood and veins?
And what do you think of all the English heroes that have set sail out of these waters to go and discover the new world and stitch the Dagos up? Makes you feel very, very proud. Robin Hood, with his band of men. Robin Hood, riding through the glen, feared by the...
So some people say that this bit has been cut out for rebroadcast because he uses the word Dago. That would be a really hard thing to cut. I don't think I've ever seen a cut version of it.
What's wrong with the word Dago? I don't know what that means.
It's considered derogatory and offensive primarily because it was used as a racial slur against Italian immigrants and the people of Italian descent, particularly during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. I pulled that off Wikipedia.
Oh,
I wasn't
I've never
sure.
heard that word before.
It's it's an old-fashioned kind of slur. Yeah, so you probably wouldn't have heard it in your life. I mean, how could they cut that though? Because it's in the middle of the scene. So I've never seen a cut version where that's cut out. They would have had to cut this really great scene with Robin Hood, so I don't know how they would have cut that.
Well, of course, one of the funniest bits is as the song is fading out and he goes, "Feared by the good," which is the thing we always quote.
Del always gets the songs wrong, yeah. So this fades out into a less hopeful mood, and the boat is just floating in the night air. So the night scene, all the Trotters are just like looking at a chart, trying to figure out where they are. So the night shoots were actually freezing for the cast and crew. David Jason recounted one of his memories of Ray Butt being wrapped in an anorak the size of a duvet. The hood made him look like a gnome from a horror film. As he walked, Jason and Lyndhurst were close behind and they heard a clinking sound and they caught up to him and he showed them that his pockets were full of miniatures of gin and tonic. which was his favourite drink, but he had got it on the boat supplies to keep himself warm during the night. So I can only imagine how cold it must have been.
I can't imagine how drunk he must have been.
I know. So the Trotters seem to be lost. And Albert's attitude is much like Del's from earlier, figuring they can't be far away. It's only a short distance on the map. They're in the right ocean, at least. Rodney and Del here are learning that Albert doesn't actually know much about sailing either, and they now could be in dead lumber.
I mean, they could die, as Rodney said earlier. In that situation, most people would have died.
Yeah, one of my favourite lines here is,
Thought you said that you could sail a boat.
Well, it went, didn't it?
I know it went. Yeah, it went all right, but where?
Then comes Albert's revelation.
When I was in the Navy, I was a boiler maintenance man.
So you've never actually studied navigation at all?
Boiler maintenance men didn't have to. See, the boiler has a tendency to go wherever the ship's going.
They get quite desperate and Rodney suggests that they steer the ship by the stars. So I took this from IMDb. When Rodney suggests that they find the way to Holland by the stars, Del says,
I remember seeing it once in the O'Deegan line.
so this is actually an in-joke because Philip Bond, who plays Van Cleef, used to be in the Onedin line, which was a TV show from the 70s. So that's actually a reference to the show that he was in. So Del and Rodney are actually looking to Albert to steer the ship by the stars, and they quickly learn that he actually doesn't know anything about them either. They're all just looking up at the sky. So they really did get a lesson as to why all of Albert's war stories are disastrous now.
Yeah, so true.
Look!
What?
Out there! It's Concord.
So?
I'm just saying. Concord.
I'm gonna kill him, the sucky old...
Ah!
I'm gonna kill you.
Del, leave him alone.
So Del finally loses it and starts to strangle him.
Oh yeah, the commotion at the end of that scene and just like the sort
long
of,
shot,
yeah, the long shot of the boat with that going on is really funny. One of the lines that I love in that sequence is,
Oh, can't you just find the bear?
Well, what does it look like?
Well, it looks like a bloody rabbit, doesn't it? I mean, what do you think a bear looks like?
Where would I find it?
Standing up there on top of the glacier mint.
obviously that's a pop culture reference that I get because I know what glacier mints are and I know what the logo is. So yeah, I think that's really funny.
Yeah, it's funny that that they start off by roping Albert into this scheme, but they have these big ideas that Albert's going to be the savior. But Albert doesn't know anything and he actually can't help them. And he's just there with them trying to be like, oh, well, it can't be that far, no problem. But they end up getting mad at him, don't they?
Yeah, totally. In actuality, Albert steering the ship or them steering the ship would have been the same. He doesn't actually know any more about ships than they do when it comes down to it. Not really.
No, it doesn't seem so. So we lose a little bit of hope here at the end of the scene that they're going to make it to Holland.
I just think it's really cute that when Albert's in trouble and Del's trying to kill him, that he calls for Rodney to come and intervene, and Rodney's so casual about it. I figured that this must happen like on a daily basis where Del's gonna kill Albert and he's actually got his hands around his throat and Rodney's just like, leave him alone.
Yeah, I mean, they always do that, don't they?
It reminds me of like parents with their kids, you know.
They play down any of the violence as such. It's
Yeah.
not violence, but they turn it into like slapstick comedy, which is
Oh
good.
god, of course, it's hilarious. The way that Albert screams and Del like trying to throttle him. It's just very funny.
So the next morning, and Del is walking along carrying 2 cups of tea, which he completely spills. I love this so much. I laugh so much at this, the way he just pulls his face as he steps to the side of the tea. Just
Was it? I actually had a question. Was that real? Because
I mean, it could have been.
I feel like maybe there was supposed to be a shot of Del walking in with the tea, but then he actually spilt it, and they just like, this is hilarious. Let's keep that in.
Well, they probably came up with that while they were on the boat because they were like, yeah, why don't we have, because like it's so swayy, why don't we have him walking along with 2 cups of tea? And it's like impossible.
And of course, he gives Rodney the one that's got nothing left in it.
Yeah. So more tea jokes. So back to the tea joke.
Yeah.
So Del joins Rodney behind the wheel and Rodney asks,
Where's Ahab?
and I only noticed that this time because I read the script. I'd never heard him say that before.
Oh, no, actually, I know what Captain Ahab is. So at least I think I do. So I'm a Star Trek fan, and in the movie First Contact, Star Trek First Contact, they reference the book Moby Dick and Captain Ahab all the way through. The character of Lily calls Captain Picard Ahab, referencing his thirst for vengeance to capture the white whale. So I'm assuming because they're on a ship and he says Ahab, he's referring to Captain Ahab. That's what I think that's from, but maybe someone can correct me if that's wrong. But I only know that because of Star Trek. I have not read Moby Dick.
Sure, yeah, let's see if anybody else has any other ideas about that. There's another old reference here, and I remember, I really vividly remember this from when we were kids, that we were watching this episode and Mom said, that's an old reference when he says...
Positive? You're trying to get the Kid Jensen show.
Because I didn't know what that was and we didn't listen to radio.
No, I don't know what that is.
But yeah, so the Kid Jensen show is a reference to David Kid Jensen, who was on the BBC radio in the late 70s. He's still on the radio, I guess, now, or at least in 2023, and he's 75 years old. But the Kid Jensen show was a radio show that was started in the 70s. So it's a really old show. I just remember when Mom and Dad would have seen us watching this probably in the late 90s and they were like, oh, that's an old reference. So I had to look that up. So I guess it's a pop culture reference that does date the show if you really look it up. But
yeah. But then Albert's old, so it makes sense that he would have been looking for it on the radio.
Yeah. It's like Granddad trying to get the Dukes of Hazzard on the microwave. So Del grabs the binoculars and tells Rodney,
Full ahead both, Mr. Christian. Why? We're going to Holland, Rodders. We're going to Holland.
So now we're going to cut to a scene that everyone remembers, which is the famous oil rig scene. And it's a good job that people do remember this scene because...
And he's licensed to drill.
No, that's... People don't remember that.
They will now if they listen to our episode of the podcast. Seems like that's the thing that everyone commented on, that they love the song.
They should have played that song in the scene, in the background. But yeah, I was just going to say it's a good thing that everyone remembers this scene because of how long it took to shoot this little scene. It took them 6 hours to get out there to the rig.
Oh, wow.
So a whole day they took just to film a few seconds of screen time. It was actually filmed on a British gas rig in the North Sea. And the future director of Only Fools and Horses, Tony Dow, who was the production manager on this episode, he was there. Ray Butt flew out to the rig by helicopter and filmed the shots and that look down on the boat. So they have shots from the boat, they have shots from the rig. They had to use walkie-talkies to communicate back and forth. It took 6 takes total. And then Ray Butt noted that they had a 6-hour trip back and he was able to fly. So the joke was on him because they had actually filled the boat up with booze and they had a party on the way home. So Ray Butt missed out on that.
Oh, I'd have been so mad.
Nick Lyndhurst said in an interview that I saw on YouTube that they flew out to the rig the day before to explain the scene and the gag. And the guy on the rig said, actually, that's not a joke. That happens all the time. People stop and ask for directions.
So loads of people are smuggling diamonds and they ask for directions.
Holland? What? Which way to Holland? Holland? It's over there! Cheers, pal! Albert, it's to the right. Holland is that way. Thank you. Rodney, see? Don't know the way, you just got to ask someone, ain't you?
So basically every time Jenny and I are lost in any situation, the first thing that we say is, it's over there, from this episode.
And those, see, don't know the way, just got to ask someone, that's all.
Any notes on who played the guy who says, it's over there?
Actually, I didn't write his name down. I probably was doing so many notes on the scene that I forgot, but I think he was actually just a guy that worked on the rig. I don't think they hired an actor.
Oh, what a great thing to do on your day at work when you're on an oil rig. You get to be in an episode of Only Fools and Horses. That's fantastic.
I hope that I'm not wrong about that. And if I am, I'm sorry to the actor. But I think that they probably just used the guy that was working there, but I could be wrong.
Well, we can do corrections if we were wrong.
I think I got to say for this episode, I had to do so much research that there's definitely going to be things that I missed. So please throw them below because, you know, we love to fill in the gaps. So we cut to Boise's office and we just see a glass of scotch being poured and Abdul is getting kind of worried about the time because he doesn't know the time because he's got Dell's watch.
What do you keep asking me for? You got a watch of your own, ain't you?
Yes, but it hasn't worked properly since Dell sold it to me. Bloody watch.
And I noted here that this is the first time we actually hear the bloody watch quote, even though it's used later in The Longest Night. But
oh yeah, so that's another episode that Dell's selling dodgy watches.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So this scene exists just for expositional purposes. We learn here that the exchange time is coming up soon, but here's the kicker. Then they sent Del Boy over there with 50 grand of counterfeit notes. This is where we learn that. So Boise isn't worried, but Abdul is. Boise reasons in a very Del Boy way that basically it's all criminals involved anyway, so it's harmless. Still, there's only a minute to go. And then we cut to them arriving in Holland. So I guess you probably don't have any notes on that office interaction. I
just said again the same thing as I said before. I can't believe that Boise wouldn't think that Del would know it was fake money.
Yeah. Well, Boise doesn't seem worried, so we have that contradiction of the two, don't we? Boise is being the panicky
well,
one.
What he says is right, is that he's hardly going to announce it, even if he does twig, which he doesn't, obviously.
No.
Announce it because, that would be stupid to do in that situation. Oh, that money, that's all Mickey Mouse money.
They have thrown him in the deep end here, which, yes, is not very nice of Boise, but it seems like at least Abdul cares. So, arriving in Holland, the scenes on the North Sea Canal were actually filmed on the bank of the River Kinderjik, which was just outside of Rotterdam, because it actually looked more picturesque with the windmills. The North Sea Canal doesn't look as nice, so they moved here so they could actually have that,
the windmills.
Yeah, the windmills. So they're actually on a different boat for this scene because it made no sense to actually take Inga all the way there for that one shot. So that's not Inga that they're on there.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
So Rodney asks where they are, and Albert tells him that it's the North Sea Canal. Del tells him,
Just don't act suspicious, Rodney. Just let's pretend we're Dutchmen, right? Ajax!
Okay, you're going to have to explain Ajax to me because I don't know what the joke is.
I wrote that. Heather won't know. Ajax is a Dutch professional football team based in Amsterdam. I did know that because Dad told me when we were kids. Because he was always laugh at Ajax so much.
Why
and we
didn't
were
Dad
like,
tell me?
Well, he probably did. You probably just didn't remember.
I didn't care.
I thought he was just mispronouncing like an actual Dutch greeting. But yeah, Ajax
Yeah, that's what I thought it was. Yeah.
It's basically the equivalent of somebody coming to England and yelling like Villa at everybody. I'm just saying that because we're from the Midlands.
Yeah, we don't upset any football fans. I know that people feel very strongly about teams, so we're just using Villa as an example. It's not that we support them or don't support them or anything. Please don't unsubscribe. I've
been to tons of different football matches, so we can say that...
I have never been to a football match, so...
the family team, I guess, would be Dad. Dad is a Wolves supporter, but that's because he was born and raised in the Black Country. And he's been to lots of different football clubs too. He's not like... he hasn't just gone to Wolves. And my husband, being American, he loves the Premier League, and we always have to go to a match every time we're in England, so I've been to tons of clubs.
That's why I'm glad I'm not married.
Yeah. So we do get a brief cut back to Boise's office again here, where they establish that they're still waiting, and Boise is rude to Mr. Bickerstaff on the phone. I'll just throw that in.
Mr. Bickerstaff?
So it's cutting back and forth. I mean, it's funny because it does say there's only a minute to go in the scene as they're arriving on North Sea Canal. So obviously Del is late, but he kind of establishes that, doesn't he, when he gets there?
Yeah.
So we're going to cut to the proper arrival in Amsterdam now, unless you had any...
No, that's fine.
Other notes. Okay. So the first scenes in Amsterdam were filmed. Oh, God, here we go. I'm going to try and pronounce all of these Dutch places. So the Binnenstad neighborhood. I have been to Amsterdam, but God, I don't know the names of the neighborhoods. So the Binnenstad neighborhood is where you can see the Dam Square Street organ and the Amsterdam Diamond Center. So there are some lovely shots of the three actors heading across town with some fun street organ music in the background. We get some canal shots, some historic buildings. They soon arrive at the office labelled Van Cleef, and Del tells Rodney to stay put and leg it if they see any danger. So here we get some Trotter loyalty coming through strong. Rodney says,
Oi, listen, Del, if there's going to be any trouble, I want to be up there with you.
I want you to stay down here, Rodney. First sign of any trouble from up there, now you leg it.
No,
now, what? Rodney, you keep your eye on him. Make sure he stays down here.
All right, Del. It's for the best, son.
Yeah, it's really nice the way that Albert agrees to stop Rodney doing anything stupid. That's really lovely.
I mean, they are in a very serious situation here, so it's very important that they look out for each other.
Well, again, I have to ask it because I've been asking all the way through the episode so far. How did they find Van Cleef's office? I know that he knew the address, but again, no map on them, no Google Maps. How did they walk there like that without a map? Did they constantly keep asking people where that street was? Because if they were like...
Well, no.
I mean, how close is Van Cleef's office to the harbour where they docked the boat? I mean, they walked.
Well, Amsterdam is not very big, and also Del had the address, so it's quite possible that he looked at street maps. They have street maps on the streets all around. This is people in the 80s, dude, they knew how to get around. We don't. I can't even find like my local supermarket without Google Maps. But yeah, like people back then used to know their way around. Don't ask me how.
I guess people had a better sense of direction than they do these days.
And honestly, the more you rely on maps, the worse your sense of direction becomes.
True.
Yeah, I used to drive places with my sat-nav, and then I didn't know the way if the sat-nav died. But, like, you ought to know the way, like, without your sat-nav. So this is a problem with, like, the years of too much navigation. We're not learning our way. These people had better sense of direction than us.
I guess a lot of people wouldn't use street maps anymore because they'd all have them on their phone anyway.
No, but most cities, especially touristy places like Amsterdam, would have, like, big street maps up in the streets. So let's assume that that's how he found it. So Van Cleef's office. So Del heads up, and this scene could come straight out of a crime movie. It echoes the shots we had at the very beginning of the episode. Very tense, very quiet. Mr. Van Cleef was played by Philip Bond, who was mostly known for the Onedin line, as we mentioned earlier. So the exchange takes place, but the scene is very tense. So now we know that the money is counterfeit. We really do fear for Del here. So it's very quiet and official seeming, but Del really holds his own in this serious situation. As the money is being counted, we cleverly just hear the movement of the notes as we see Del looking at the money. He knows, we're not sure, we think he does, the way he looks at the money. Then we see Rodney outside, and he clocks that they're being watched from around the corner, so the tension really builds.
Yeah, with that flickering, like, money counting sound on
yeah,
top
with
of
the
it,
sound.
which is great.
It's very crime movie, yeah.
Could you imagine how different this scene would have been with the laugh track on it?
Yeah, it would have been.
I mean, the
just
tension would have
built.
completely gone out of this scene, I think, if there had been a laugh track.
Well, in the same way that I think, we'll go back to Miami twice again, that the laugh track takes away from the seriousness of the mafia.
Yeah, it does.
It turns it more into a joke. It would have turned this into a joke and more slapstick, which actually seems kind of serious, because at this point I feel like we've almost forgotten about the police. Like, we know Slater's after them.
Yeah.
But we've almost forgotten about the police. We're more worried about, is Del going to get in trouble with the fake money? And then we see that guy poke his head around the corner. And we're like, oh shit, like, this is serious. Not only is Del up there doing the exchange, but the police is there. Like, it's scary.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that as a red herring as well. It's just, again, another layer added to the story. It's really nice.
It's very good, yeah. So the tension really builds, and the heavies give Van Cleef the nod to all of our relief to say that the money is fine. Van Cleef says,
I believe these are yours, Mr. Trotter.
Thank you very much. Boise, we got a deal.
Good. No problems?
Nah, everything went as sweet as a nut.
this makes me think of James Bond for some reason.
I was
This
about to say
exchange.
that. It sounds like a Bond villain. It's so Bond villain, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
the way
very
he
Bond.
speaks.
Well, we know John Sullivan loved James Bond.
I think it's because Bond villains tend to have really thick accents, don't they?
Yeah, I believe these are yours, Mr. Bond.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, he sounds like the guy, the Mr. Bond. Mr. Bond.
Mr. Bond. Yeah, the bald guy. What's his name?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Dr. Evil.
You only live twice, Dr. Evil. The guy Dr. Evil is based on. Mr. Bond.
Yeah, he sounds like him. That's why.
Yeah,
It makes me think of James Bond. So Del exits the room, and Van Cleef's door isn't even closed when he picks the phone back up and tells an unknown someone.
The courier has just left. She'll be with you soon. Trotter. Derek Trotter.
They always do this in movies, don't they? Where they instantly betray as soon as the door closes. Like in real life, you probably, I don't know, have a little cup of tea, sit down for 10 minutes before you make the call. But no, you got to do it right away to really build the tension up in the movie.
Well, I think they had to do this right away here because they want us to think that he's telling the cops downstairs.
Yes, of course. Yeah. It's really, but again, yeah, it's just the way in movies that always happens. Like the second someone leaves, they're like, okay, now let's betray them. It's like, wait a second until they're a bit further away from the door.
What if Del had just put his head back round the door and been like,
what
are you
sorry,
doing?
I forgot something. Exactly.
So back downstairs, and the police car pulls up behind that guy that was poking his head around the corner. And we see Del come out onto the street, and Rodney gives him kind of a warning look. But Del's still talking, and then he looks at the police car and then just yells,
Leg it!
The police chase was filmed from the corner of, I'm going to try and pronounce these Dutch places, but give me some leeway if I don't get them right. Prinsengracht to Kloveniersburgwal, and the bridge that they run over was the Walter Susskind Bridge. poor Albert runs out of puff on the bridge, and he tells Del and Rodney to go on without him. It is so sweet how Del is willing to go to prison just so Albert doesn't have to face the music on his own.
But Rodney's not.
Rodney's not. Yeah, but Rodney does try to reason. He's got nothing on him, but then, yeah, Del says,
You can't leave the poor old sod to face the music, can you?
Big relief here. They're not actually being chased. It's the other guy who was spying around the corner. So Del says,
You dozy little twonk, Rodney. What did you shout run for?
It wasn't me, it was him.
Del shouted run.
It was Del. Del shouted.
It was,
Leg
yeah.
it. Yeah.
So yeah, as they're walking away, they're all arguing over who shouted run, but we know it was Del that said
Del. Yeah, I just put in that scene, wouldn't the police be a bit suspicious that they were all running away and put their hands up as soon as they got near?
Yes, they would, but they were so busy on focus. They were so focused on catching that guy in the trench.
Yeah, no,
coat.
but then like one of them could have stayed with that guy and been like, "Hang on a minute, you three, why were you running away?"
Yeah, what's going on with you three? Yeah,
yeah, what are you worried about us catching you for?
yeah. I was going to say that guy that pokes his head around the corner at the beginning of the scene reminds me of the bit in Fawlty Towers when Lord Melbury sticks his head out.
Yes, always reminds me of that too. Yeah, he looks he's got a Lord Melbury kind of style disguise about him. I know exactly.
It's the long coat, yeah, and they're like poking his
There's
head around the
something.
corner.
Yeah, that's so true. That always reminds me of that too.
So that's the end of that scene for me. Did you have any other notes?
That I absolutely love the chase sequence, the music, Boise and Abdul celebrating. It's just great. I mean, the part where they come around the corner and knock the guy off the bike and he says, "Ajax pal."
Oh yeah,
all of it.
Ajax
It's just
pal.
really funny. The whole thing is funny. That chase sequence.
It is so funny. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so we cut back to Slater's office here, and the first thing we see is a big sheet of paper, which is Slater's suspect list, telling us that Monkey Harris, Paddy the Greek, and Sunglasses Ron are all inside right now. Interesting little... But they must get out before the beginning of Series 5, because that's where Del gets the
roof.
lead. Yeah. So... I've never really clocked that before, that it said that. And so, yeah, it's interesting watching with a little bit more focus. Then it says Trigger is too daft and that Denzel has had a nervous breakdown. I want to know why Denzel would be a suspect. Because he's never been shown as being friends with Boise either, has he? But
no.
Not yet,
true.
anyway. But they did go to school together.
I mean, why isn't Mike a suspect? Mike's always in the next head and Boise and Del are always in there.
Mike too busy. I don't know. Yeah, Mike's not in. Oh no, he is in this episode. Yeah, he's in the
Mike
beginning.
fell down cellar. Can't have done it.
Yeah, he hurt his Gregory. So at the bottom it says Del Boy, and Roy comes up and draws a big circle around his name. So this is supposed to make us think that Roy just figured it out on his own. But obviously, if you know the ending, you know that at this point Van Cleef has already told him that Del is the courier. But of course, he didn't tell him how Del got into the country, so Slater is still planning to go and do surveillance at Gatwick. So he has Hoskins come by and then they prepare to man Gatwick Airport. So he tells them it could be a long wait. Now, I love this little bit of dialogue here from Jim Broadbent and Christopher Mitchell. Obviously, it's a bit visual this moment, but it's the line where he pulls his jacket back and there's a big gun and he says,
"What's the most important thing we have to do, Hoskins?"
I don't know, sir. Oh, yeah. We're sombreros.
What do I look like? I look like an ordinary holidaymaker, don't I?
Oh, I see. Blend into the surroundings.
The first rule of surveillance is don't look conspicuous. We'll have to get you something, Hoskins. You look a right tit.
Yeah, it's very good. I just have a very small thing I just want to mention. He mentions they've got someone covering Luton, Gatwick and Heathrow. What about Stansted?
Yeah, I don't know.
London Stansted, right? Is like an airport that was there at that time.
Sure, and well, there's also other airports in the UK that they could have flown into. It wouldn't have been a hassle for them to drive down from Birmingham Airport.
Yeah, that's true. So it just seemed a bit...
They're not taking it that serious.
They're not even trying, are they?
Maybe we're reading too much into it.
Oh yeah, of course, that's what we're supposed to do.
Yes, you're right. Stop splitting hairs. Okay, so... Cut back to the boat, heading back, and Del announces that they're lost again.
How can we be lost again? I thought you'd know the way by now.
So did I.
Rodney is sick again, so it's like a repeat on the way back. This is where Rodney sees the Norland, which is the Zeebrugge Hull ferry. So this is just a quick scene, really, just to tell us that they're going to follow the ferry home. Although some people have said online that this would have actually been impossible considering the speed of the Zeebrugge to Hull ferry, which does make sense because a little boat like that wouldn't have been able to keep up with an actual ferry that speed. But
although I guess you could see, because they had binoculars, that was established earlier, so I guess as long as they kept an eye on it from like a distance, they could still in theory kept up with it from far away.
If they were maybe already halfway home, but they end up going all the way to Zeebrugge.
Yeah, true.
Boycie and Abdul are waiting back in England, and the Trotters are still late. They're way late, even though not as late as Abdul's bloody watch says. So Boycie says that he already knows that Del got back into England without a hitch. So this is the thing you were talking about earlier. He even got through customs. So yeah, why didn't he tell Abdul before then?
Yeah, I don't know. They're waiting for him. Do you think the first thing he would have said when they met each other there would have been like, "Oh, Del called me this morning," like just to let us know? Yeah.
Yeah, that's just that doesn't matter. And so just as we hear the van pulling up outside, they rush up from their seats. Del gets out of the van in the alley and he tells Rodney to let Popeye out the back. So Boycie opens the door to Del, and he is disgusted by his smell and appearance. After all that has happened, Del reveals that they actually ended up going all the way back to Zeebrugge, which is a Belgian port, and then they followed the Norland home. So they went all the way back. So Rodney and Albert file in behind them, leaving them all standing either side of a big table. So now the exchange can take place. So here begins the conclusion scenes of the episode. And what can I say, really, except for this episode wraps up really nicely. Nice pace, plenty of twists. This is what we were talking about with the writing. There doesn't seem to be like a lull in the pacing at all here. Yeah. And it's all explained really well. It's especially
the tension is good.
Yeah, it especially highlights John Sullivan's ability for writing longer episodes, and he can do more with more time.
Yes.
Like, he would not have been able to do this in half an hour. He wouldn't even be able to do this in an hour.
No.
At least not as well as he did it. So Boycie starts us off.
Okay, you've got the diamonds.
You got the money?
So Boycie drops the money on the table and Del drops the diamonds. So just as they're all reaching for their booty, the door bursts open.
Buenos dias.
Bloody hell. Slater!
He's wearing a sombrero, which is so funny. So Slater is standing in the doorway and still wearing his sombrero. They all try to exit the back door, but Parker is there. So they all run the other way and they're blocked by Hoskins, also wearing a sombrero and holding a huge straw donkey.
Yeah, I love that.
It's over.
I love the thought that after they had that conversation about him looking a tit, that Slater gave him these things.
Imagine seeing two cops like that standing at the station with sombreros and holding a huge straw donkey. Yeah, it's so comedy. So they all walk back into the room to face the music, and Slater is holding the bag of diamonds and emptying them into his hand. So here Albert, whilst getting defensive about his smell, reveals to Slater how they got into the country, which gets scathing looks from Del and Rodney. He says that it's a very sad day for him because his last case and he has to nick two of his old schoolmates, but he actually seems pretty happy about it, which we know. He actually is happy. So he counts the diamonds and he says
30. Spot on.
Which does not go unnoticed by the Trotters. So now Boycie tries to slime out of it by saying he and Abdul are innocent and it was Del Boy. So this is where I was saying I've seen a lot of people say that this moment proves that Boycie and Del are not really friends. So this is a discussion point. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, he said he paid him to take the risk and he warned him that this would be what would happen if it went pear-shaped. So what do you think Del would have done?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we know Del wouldn't have done that because Del didn't even try to say, no, it was them. He was like, yeah, it was me, to protect his family. I guess that's why he said that in that moment. But I think it's awful that Boycie did it like this, because I think what they were referring to when they said, like, you're going to take the risk, it was more that if you get caught at the airport where we're nowhere near, you don't say anything about us and you go down for it. But in this situation, with Slater there, and Slater knows it's all of them, it is a bit out of order to put all the blame on Del, because it was their whole idea to begin with. And it's stupid as well, because Slater knows that they have put the money up because Del tells him that he knows that on the phone. So it does seem a bit redundant to try and pass the back in this situation onto Del.
Yes, I mean, the only thing you could argue there is I guess they all know that Slater always needs someone to go down for the crime. So perhaps he would have let Boycie off, because even though he knows Boycie put the money up, as long as he gets someone. And plus, he wants Del.
Yeah, he'd want Del over Boycie, I'd imagine. I mean, we don't even know that he knows Boycie or that they went to school together until, I think this is the first time it's mentioned, right? That Boycie And
no, remember they talk about it in
no, because Boise doesn't get a mention in May the Force Be With You. It's only Trigger that gets one
as being part of the school gang.
I think so. Yeah, in the Long John Silver bit when he's talking about the pirates bit, Boise doesn't get a mention. I know that Boise knows Slater in the pub, but I don't think it's ever mentioned that he's part of the school gang at that point.
Oh, we talked about this in May the Force Be With You because of Boise being the pirate videos. Yeah, I think maybe you're right, yeah. The only thing I would say about, in my argument about this proves that Boise and Del aren't really friends, Boise is a friend to Del. He's not as good as a friend as Del is to everybody else. Boise is not as loyal, and Boise is not behaving in a way where he will just throw himself completely under the bus the way Del does. But that doesn't mean that they're not friends. It just means that Del has a slightly higher moral code in the world.
It just means that Boise's not a good mate anyway. I mean, Boise isn't. He lets Del down on multiple occasions over the course of their friendship. Like, not helping him get in the Masons.
Yeah.
And not pulling strings for things like that.
Exactly.
So.
But then Del, does a lot of things to Boise too. Like where he gets the money out of him and little problems with the whole... there's
true.
that. And there's the... I thought you were skint. I just happened to find $3,000 in my pocket.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't think it proves anything except that their relationship is always a little bit kind
rocky.
of... I mean, yes, this is probably one of the worst times that Boise could have thrown him under the bus.
If Slater had actually arrested Del and taken him to prison for this, that would have been awful, what Boise and Abdul did. But fortunately, that wasn't how it ended up. But yes, it is understandable why Del is upset, and Del says he's upset, with them at the end of this scene.
So Del does try to take the fall for all of the Trotters, although Albert tries to.
No, I was the brains behind it. Oh, all right then.
I just love everyone's reaction to him saying it like, oh, for God's sake. It's just so good.
Oh, but it's so nice.
It's so nice that he tried. I know, it's lovely.
So Slater is absolutely loving the power he has here. He pops his head out the door and dismisses his backup, although he only actually dismisses Parker.
I know.
He does not dismiss
I made a note about
Hoskins.
this. And Hoskins, he doesn't close the door even to where Hoskins was. So if Hoskins didn't... Hoskins already knows, obviously, about Slater. But if he didn't know before this, he certainly does now, because he was in that little bit of corridor outside listening to this whole conversation.
Yes, that was a bit of an oversight, because he doesn't dismiss them. So now starts the first twist. Roy says that he could arrest them all, or he could just forget it ever happened while slipping the diamonds into his pocket. Boise and Abdul laugh and agree quickly, but Del's face is frozen in disgust and judgment. He does not want to pander to Slater the way that they are. And Slater asks,
"What do you think, Del boy?"
I think something smells very fishy around here. And it ain't just these clothes. How come you knew there was 30 diamonds in that bag?
Yeah. And how come you knew who was involved right from the start?
Just a minute. When we were in the cafe the other day, that bloke you was telling us about that you couldn't nick for smuggling diamonds because of lack of evidence. What was his name?
You mean Hendrick?
Yeah. His surname wouldn't have been Van Cleef by any chance, would it?
You found me out, you rascal.
What? You and Van Cleef?
That's right.
So Roy is doing the dirty too. He has a deal with Van Cleef where he sets up the exchanges and then Roy busts them on the UK side. He gets to keep the diamonds, take no risks. He tells him it's the third time they've pulled it off. Why do baddies always do this?
I know. They always.
I've been doing this for years.
I put in my notes. Does he tell every single group that he's busted this same truth tale afterwards?
And never ever say.
And there is nothing you can do about it.
So he leaves victoriously.
And you're going to wish me good luck for the future? No? Oh, well. Win some, lose some.
I hope we bump into each other one of these days, Slater.
I don't think so, Del boy. I'm going a long way away from here.
I love how calm Del stays during all of this because Slater would have loved for him to get all riled up over it, and he doesn't. He's the grown-up and the guardian of the family. He stays calm. He keeps his head. Albert looks confused, and Rodney has that sad anger look on his face, but Del's just exhausted and fed up. Boise is fuming, particularly at Abdul, because Abdul set this up with Van Cleef.
You Burke Abdul!
How was I to know Van Cleef was a crook? Bloody foreigner.
He tries to apologize to Del, and then Del has this nice episode summary speech I wrote.
You ain't done nothing. You sent me halfway round the world. I've been to Amsterdam. I've been to Hull and back. For what? Slater's taken the diamonds, he's taken the money. On top of all that, my two mates have grasped me up.
So the Trotters leave to go home. That's the end of that little interaction. Did you have any notes on that scene, dude?
Yeah, just a couple of things. So, first of all, they decided to meet in the pub to do this exchange in the back room in the pub. Why? Is my first question, because that seems like a really public place where anyone could walk in. And, oh, someone did just walk in. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, how did Slater know where they all were? Because he hasn't followed Del and Rodney and Albert because he didn't even know where they were coming from. So he must have followed, Boise and Abdul. But then we found out he was at the airport. So someone else was following Boise and Abdul, and they've been sitting in that pub for ages at this point, waiting for Del and Rodney and Albert to arrive. I just wondered how Slater knew where to find them, because he couldn't have found out the information from Van Cleef.
No, I mean, it's very unlikely that they would have told Van Cleef where the exchange was taking place. So, yeah, I can't.
Once they left Amsterdam, it was nothing to do with Van Cleef. So, yeah, that was just a bit of a plot point.
Yeah.
I wondered how he found them. And then I also said I love that Del's the one who figures it all out, just reaffirming how smart his character really is. And it's a shame that he didn't ask the questions earlier. That was the only thing I said, like, about the Henry thing. Wouldn't diamonds and cat's eyes look very different? Wouldn't the size be a little bit different at least? And, like, the shine on them be slightly different? I just feel like you'd notice if two of those diamonds weren't the same as all the other ones.
Well, that's just artistic license.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, maybe if you have a whole bag full, you wouldn't notice.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He took them out and went through them. I just feel like you'd notice that if there were two fake ones in there. But yes, I'm not a diamond merchant, so I'm not sure.
So here we have the only scenes that were filmed in London for this episode. So starting with Slater's roadblock arrest. Hoskins is driving and expressing his confusion about how they keep being unable to catch the thieves in possession of the diamonds. Slater thinks he's playing it cool until Hoskins takes an unexpected turn, and then we get the penultimate twist.
They've known about you for a long time. And they just couldn't catch you in possession. Till now, sir.
So it's over for Slater and Van Cleef. We cut to a quick shot of him trying to bank the cash, and he's busted too.
Yeah.
So that's nice for us to see. We get a very quick shot of Boise and Abdul where they tell us that the money they paid Dal was not counterfeit. That is just to prep us for the next scene. And at this point, we still think Slater took the money, of course, which we find out is not true. So we're going to move into the final scene at Nelson Mandela. Did you have any notes on these last three little bits?
Yeah, I just had one thing that I thought was interesting about the whole setup between Slater and Van Cleef. So Van Cleef gets paid at his end, but he also gives away the diamonds, right? But Slater just gets diamonds. Like, there's nothing on his side that he has to give up. It's literally he just gets given loads of diamonds. And it's not like Slater would have a hold over Van Cleef legally, because he's not a policeman in Holland, he's a policeman in the UK. So I don't understand really how Slater talked Van Cleef into this, because Van Cleef always has to give away his diamonds. I know he gets paid for them, but technically it's a fair deal. He gets paid and he gives the diamonds, but Slater just gets diamonds.
Yeah, and Slater's supposed to get the money too, right, though? That's the thing. The money was there, but he doesn't take it.
Assuming they pay the courier,
Yeah.
maybe other people didn't do that. Maybe the courier did it for free. So that's like just an extra bonus if he gets it. But yeah, Slater literally loses absolutely nothing in these deals, which is amazing that Van Cleef was like, yeah, you can just have the diamonds. You know, that seems like a bit unfair of a deal between those two. And then I just said it's very satisfying to see Slater get his comeuppance. And I also thought it was interesting that Boise says,
I didn't intend to pay Del Boy funny money. I ain't into plastic surgery.
Meaning that he knows Del would beat the crap out of him if he gave him fake money. And I just think it's always really interesting. Everyone is scared of Del.
Yeah, because he's a dirty little fighter.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting because size-wise, Boise's like twice the size of Del, but he's still afraid of Del. And I just think, I love that. I love that Del has that air of menace about him, that everyone is like, oh, don't mess with Del.
Except for the Driscoll brothers.
Oh, yes, well, of course. And Brendan, I suppose, as well.
Well, Del doesn't seem to be scared of Brendan. It's more...
Well, no, he does. He says if that Brendan wasn't so big, I'd give him a right good hiding. He does say that in Pretty Boy.
I thought that was Rodney that said that.
No, he says, Del says, if that Brendan wasn't so big, I'd give him a right good hiding. And Rodney says, yeah, me too. And then Grandad says, well, you're as tall as he is, Rodney.
That's right. And Del's afraid of Denzel's brothers as well. I forgot about
that's
that.
true. So there's only a few
makes
times
sense,
we see
though.
Del genuinely be scared of someone.
So final scene then. So Nelson Mandela, and I wrote the whole set moved just for this one shot. I don't know why they did that. They should have shot it in London, right? So the second time we see the fourth wall. When was the other time, dude?
It's only rock and roll.
Yeah.
I missed it in the quiz. Ah, no.
I know.
I'm gutted. I'll never forget I messed up on that.
It's okay, dude.
Scarred for life.
So the Trotters are very happy to be home, and Rodney is itching to tell them his good news, but they have good news of their own, so Del says pour the drinks. Firstly, Del tells Rodney that the 50 grand was counterfeit. Rodney is appalled and says they need to get even with Boise and Abdul for that. Albert replies by saying,
We already have Rodney.
Eh?
Go on, Albert. Show him.
Hold your hand out.
They're real, aren't they?
Albert has 2 diamonds in his pipe, and Rodney thinks and says,
No, hold on. Slater picked up 30 diamonds.
No, he didn't. He took 28 diamonds and 2 cat's eyes.
so now we get that mention of the cat's eyes coming back. So yeah, they seem pretty happy about this. Then Rodney brings up the 15 grand.
Oh, Slater didn't pick it up. I did.
Here is where we all cringe, and one of the biggest faux pas Del has ever made. He takes the money to the balcony and throws it over the edge. This shot was actually done on the North Acton estate, which was the original Nelson Mandela location. I want to know, what did all those people living there think when all that fake money went flying past their balcony?
That is what I wrote down. I said surely this would have been mentioned for a long time to come, because that 15,000 would have been found for probably weeks and weeks afterwards. And as soon as people realised there was like random notes of money floating around the estate, the entire estate would have been. But then also at that point, Del or Rodney would have also realised. And I don't understand why the first reaction of Rodney wasn't, "What are you doing?" and ran down the stairs to go and get it. I don't understand why that wasn't the first reaction.
Well, yeah, for some reason he seems to sort of believe Del, even though he looks like he's in shock that the money wasn't real. But yeah, I would have been. This is a plot hole for me, because Del is in Amsterdam. He's able to look across the room and know the money's counterfeit, which actually gives us kind of a, wow, Del actually is really good with the money.
Well, that's the joke, isn't it? That's what they're trying to say is the joke. But yeah, this is the only part of the episode I don't like, honestly. I don't like the way they ended it. I think they should have let the Trotters win.
It would have been nice, yeah, for them to keep that money. But I guess they always want to show that the Trotters almost never get the... I mean, they did win in a way. They got the 2 diamonds.
That's what I mean. Like, it just seemed like they could have carried on with that. And it was such a nice reveal that Rodney picked up that money as well. Although, plot hole, go back and watch the scene with the struggle.
Yes,
he doesn't
there's
pick
no
up that
way
money.
he could have.
No, he doesn't. You watch him. They have a shot from above on the table, and they're all running around. They go to the Parkins store, and then they go out the other door and run past it. The money's still on the
Parkins.
table. What did I say? Parkins.
You blended Parker and Hoskins into one.
Obviously, I can't remember the policemen's names very well, but he does not pick up that money, I guarantee. So but I mean, it's a wonderful idea that he did pick it up to, make it again a great thing for the Trotters at the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do like the line.
Fortunately, he gave the money to these 2 gorillas to check, and well, they were about as bright as an eclipse.
I would not have ended the episode this way. I'd have ended it with the Trotters took the diamonds, which is great, and they also were like, "Oh my god, we got the 15k." That's brilliant. And like, even just like Rodney taking it out of his pocket and went, "I did." Because actually, that would have been a really nice way to end it, with the similarity to May the Force Be With You, that the 2 Slater episodes ended with, "I did."
Yeah, but I mean, you can't say the Trotters didn't win. They got away with a smuggling and everything. So I guess, yeah, they got away with it. And Slater got sent to prison.
No, that's true. But they got the 6k. But it's just like that 15k, as Rodney pointed out, they could have like set themselves up a little bit with that, invested it, done something with it, or gone to Benidorm. But they could have done something with it. I mean, that's a lot of money.
Why do they love Benidorm?
That's just, they always do that, don't they? It's something that really would have it was a life-changing amount of money for the Trotters, £15,000, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Which is why Del agreed to do the deal in the first place, because he knew that money would have been, worth the risk. And again, they could have gone and got it back almost straight away. But they didn't. They just, as you said, trusted Del and stayed in the flat. Whereas I would have ran straight down the stairs to go and collect it all.
Well, in reality, Rodney could have grabbed one of the notes that didn't fall, because a few of them sort of fly around it and they're on the balcony.
That's
and
true.
gone, look, it's real. Yeah, so the plot hole I was talking about is the fact that Del is handling this money. It's not just from across the room. So there's no way that he wouldn't have known. If he's able to identify counterfeit money visually across a room, how did he not manage it when it was in his hand? But
one more thing I just wanted to say.
That's okay.
He also would surely have known that Boise wouldn't risk giving him fake money, because he would straight away have gone to Boise and been like, "This money's fake, Boise."
Well, he should have known that. Yes, the same way that that Boise sort of says it as if Abdul should have known.
It's true. Like, it would have been pointless giving Del fake money because he definitely would have found out, and Boise and Del live in the same place, so it would have come back on Boise. There's no way that he would have got away with giving Del fake money.
Exactly, so, yeah. That's the only part, though. If that's the only criticism, then that's really
the
not
only
that bad.
criticism. Yes, that's just, I don't like the ending with that.
And I think it's deliberately written to be cringy because the Trotters always manage to mess things up. So after all of that and all that stress, they had the money in their hand and Del flings it over the balcony. Yeah. And he says,
"What do you think I am, eh? Some sort of Wally."
And that's the end of the episode.
It's interesting, though, the way that shot lingers because it doesn't, like, freeze. He actually has to stay in that position and hold it.
Yes, I suppose the very end is the only time applause would have been just fine in this episode. They could have had applause, but that doesn't matter. So after such a long episode, shall we move on to our awards section, dude?
And guess what? He's only one.
Okay, so as always, we have 3 awards to announce this week. And we'll start with our Plonker of the Week.
You little plonker.
So for Plonker of the Week, we each nominate a Plonker and we'll discuss and decide who wins. So, dude, why is Slater your Plonker of the Week? Maybe it's not Slater. I nominate Slater just because he's an idiot all the way through this episode. The fact that he tells Del the name Henry, the fact that the fact that he thinks that he can get away with this for a third time is just ridiculous. That people wouldn't have caught on by now and the evidence disappearing. The fact that he thinks the police are that stupid that they wouldn't have caught on is also really dumb. And obviously the entire attitude of Slater is just awful. And I know that we give Plonker for dumbness, which is what I just said. But yeah, I just think Slater's the villain and he's the bad guy and he deserved everything he got.
Well, I just looked at my notes and I wrote, Del for throwing the money, Boise and Abdul, ? Slater, everyone. That's what I wrote. So I feel like I couldn't decide when I wrote this because I do think that...
Yes, I mean, Del throwing the money at the end, it could be the winner for that one act, admittedly.
So what Del does at the end is such a plonker thing because after all the smart stuff he's done throughout the episode and all, it's trying to sail across to Holland in a boat with no experience is pretty plonker as well, but... he's the one who figured out the whole scam at the end, so you've got to give him credit for that. But he also does some of the dumbest stuff in this episode. I mean, Slater not knowing that they were onto him is the biggest thing he does. That's a plonker because he's supposed to be a detective and he doesn't know they know all of this already. Yeah. So yeah, I guess we could give it to Slater only because he's the villain.
I mean, I do agree with you that the throwing the money off the balcony is a really, really dumb thing to do. But I mean, even like you said, there's in an episode of this length, there's bound to be multiple plonkers, to be honest. It's very difficult, as you say, to think of anyone that isn't a little bit of a plonker at some point when you've got an episode this long. But yeah. I just think, it's got to be Slater. It's got to be Slater in every episode Slater's in, surely.
Yes, probably. Yeah, spoiler for Class of 62.
Because he is a plonker in that as well. So.
Plonker of the episode is Roy Slater.
You've set me up.
So Jenny has decided the best line of the episode for this week. So, dude, what have you chosen?
Well, this is so difficult. Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like it has a standout best line. There are just so many good ones, like, littered through. So I really love the line where Del says... about Albert, where he's like, that is the greatest little sailor since Nelson lost the Armada. And I also love, Albert at the end with, I was the brains behind
I love that one, yeah.
But I also love Roy Slater's, I look like an ordinary holiday maker, don't I?
Yeah, the tone is really funny in that part.
Yeah, I don't know, it's so difficult. I really do think
I love the quotability of... it's over there. And also...
yeah, I thought that too. Which way to Holland?
All of these bits are really funny too.
I do actually, you know what? I think because of it sums up the episode so nicely, I think you're right. The oil rig. Which way to Holland? It's over there. See, Rodney? You don't know the way? Just go ask. That is... Let's put that.
Okay. All right. So that's the best line of the episode. I also want to give one honourable mention for the Glacier Mint line because I think that's really funny. And I have chosen the best moment of the episode. So I also had 3 contenders for this. The first one is...
this will be a tough one.
Yeah. So the first one is Albert directing them out of the harbour because I think that's a really funny sequence. Just loads of hilarious dialogue and the the boat going from side to side. It's just really funny. Rodney's reactions in the what would you call it, the bow of the boat? I don't know what you call that underneath. Rodney sort of blowing up the life jacket and worrying about the whole trip. It's just brilliant, that whole sequence. And then the second one that I nominated is Denzel seeing Del on the ship, because I just absolutely love that shot. I think it's so funny the way, like, getting his position that David Jason is standing in.
Yeah, that
it's
is
just
such a
really
great
funny,
moment.
that part. And then the other part that I put, obviously, is the chase scene in Amsterdam. So honestly, I don't know which one I would choose, because all of these moments make me like howl with laughter every time I watch. So I guess if we're going for the episode and like summing up the episode, or a thing that represents the episode, it's probably the chase scene in Amsterdam, right? Because that music.
Maybe, yeah. It's hard to say, because I think also the scene where the bit where Del steps up and sings Robin Hood is very memorable on the boat. Yeah, that would be my honorable
I mean, that's
mention.
just after Denzel sees him on the ship. Yeah, that's true. So
it's, I don't know. It's so difficult. Episodes this long with so many great moments.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't. We should have done part 1 and part 2.
That's true. We should
awards.
Okay, well, I will award, just to get this over with, I will award it to the chase scene in Amsterdam. Okay, that is getting the best moment of the episode. Okay, so drink up, we're leaving.
Okay, so that finally wraps it up for this huge long 2-parter. Join us next week when we will be doing our Series 4 overview episode. And until then...
Au revoir, listeners. If you like what you hear and want to contact us, you can email us at longlivehooky street podcast@gmail.com. All one word, no spaces. Bonjour.